Good evening, good evening. For those of you joining, I am Zoe from Phoenix Life and Wellbeing Coaching. Thank you so much for joining us on this bank holiday evening. You are tuned in to Fire 5 at Phoenix. So we are now into our second month of doing this, and Jamel, who's joining me this evening, is our 8th or 9th guest on this, I think. So the process is fairly simple in that Jamel and others have been coming in with 5 questions to ask me. The trick is I don't get to see the questions beforehand, so all the answers that you're hearing this evening are straight out of the top of my head. But we have a theme each month, and the theme for this month is the relationship with ourselves and our relationship with other people. So before we get into it, Jamel, we have connected through this page. So actually through me doing lives quite some time ago. Do you want to tell us a little bit about yourselves before we get started?
Well, I found Phoenix Live Training quite a while ago now. And then me and you started talking. I watched a lot of the lives. It did help me because at the time I was trying to change job, I was trying to move on, do something completely different to what I've already been doing and trying to further myself. And obviously you gave me a few tips, you helped me out. Yeah. And it's been very informative and helpful since then. So from then I've been an avid viewer. I've been here. I've been asking questions. I've been doing all the things that you did. So yeah, I thought that it's about time that I had my own little platform to ask a few questions on my own.
What I've loved about our conversations is that you've always asked me challenging questions in just the same way. So that's what I've really loved about our conversations, is that it's not been like one way. It's not been like what I would call coaching conversations. They've been very much kind of me challenging your perspective, you challenging my perspective, and we've had some really interesting conversations. So I am really intrigued as to what questions you are bringing me this evening.
Well, to be honest with you, yeah, I was thinking that I watched a lot of the lives, and obviously the questions that have come before me with the people that have come through, and they've been really amazing. I have to say that. Shout out, some big ups to all the people that have done it, because it's been really amazing, yeah. But at the same time, I feel like the questions have been, I think the one question has been used up, your relationship with yourself and all the bits and that. So I thought I'd rather come at it from a different angle.
Cool.
And try and spark something different from there.
Love it. And that's why it's been, that's why I think this is what makes these conversations a little bit different, is that I give you the topic, but you get to come at it from whatever angle, whatever perspective you want to. So you've got a topic, you've got 5 questions, but you get to look at it from your angle, your perspective, or what you want to ask me on. So do you want to hit me with that first question? I'm intrigued as to where this conversation is going to go.
The first question is basically 2 questions. So I'm kind of using a cheat code here. I'm getting 2 questions out of one, yeah?
Okay, I'm going to allow that.
So I know that everyone's been focusing on the relationships with themselves and understanding relationships with themselves and others, which is a good thing because we all need that. You know, we all need that within community and all the rest of it. But my question to you would have to be, being as we've been going through this pandemic, and obviously the Black Lives Matter thing that's really been at the forefront of a lot of people's minds at the moment.
Yeah.
What is your relationship now with like people around you, you know, obviously of ethnic origins, and also your relationship with your city? Because a lot of statues have been taken down as well. So I'd like to know now how the relationship with people and your city has it changed? Has it evolved? Is there more now that you know? Because you said before that you got a lot more information about certain things. So has that changed the relationship with your surroundings, your city, or with like people around you in your community?
That's a really, I think Bristol obviously got thrown at the forefront after the protest march here and the Colston statue came down. Now, I have always thought that my awareness on these issues was pretty good, but what it really challenged for me was probably two things. One was that I didn't know half of it, and that also what I did know was very much kind of the history that the history books wanted to tell us, rather than necessarily that bigger picture and told from different people's stories. So I think definitely since that's happened, I've really challenged how aware I am. And actually, I think I've also probably challenged myself in how much of an ally I am and how much more I should be doing to support people who are really important to me and the community in general. And I think the other thing, like around the people who I'm with, we've, lots of people who I'm connected with. We've always had really good, interesting, rich conversations. Anyway, I'm always really keen to meet different people with different, upbringings, and I want to hear people's stories. I want to hear people's experiences. But I think what the Black Lives Matter conversations, I think what it has done is it's probably challenged me to listen a lot more, to challenge maybe some of my preconceived ideas and maybe some of the things that I have thought along the way, and to see whether or not they are different. And I think what I have done, and I think what a lot of us have done, is really take notice of some of the information that is available to us, that actually it has always been there, but it's not necessarily been pushed to the forefront mainstream media. So I've watched quite a lot of documentaries and different things that have helped me to understand some of the history behind it, not just here in the UK, but sort of in the US as well. And I think from a city perspective, I mean, the school I went to, I was in Colston House. So I was in the house that I was in school was named after Edward Colston. Now, I remember, and you might have seen it in the media, the graphic of how they brought people over. Those slaves were brought over on the ships with them all lying down. I remember being shown that graphic, but I don't remember that our education included all of what happened and how Edward Colston came to be, so rich. And that history plays a huge part in this city, and you can't undo history, but I think you do need to understand everything that happened and from the different perspectives of the people who lived that history. And I think we've seen one side of that history has been a lot louder than the other, and I think it's been nice to see the city step forward and tell both sides of the story a lot more. And I think people have been a lot more open to hearing that and challenging some of the things that we have been taught in the past. Does that answer, because I covered community, covered city, covered people in your two-parter question? Has that answered it?
Relationship, has it affected your relationship with your city at all? I mean, that's the only question, really. I mean, has it affected your relationship with your city, knowing the history now? Or has it just like opened your eyes? Because I feel like it's strengthened my relationships with people from other races or religions or whatever. It's strengthened my relationship with them and my resolve with them, because they have the ability to understand where I'm coming from. Do you understand what I'm saying? Like, yeah, it's like the empathy of it, and obviously doing their own research behind the scenes, and then understanding that. I don't think it's a level of racism. I think it's a level of ignorance. So if you can educate someone and talk to them and show them a different side of stuff, then obviously you can open up their minds and move forward with the actual dialogue itself. Yeah, I think Bristol, I mean, with any city, I think there's always lots of room for improvement, but I think Bristol has always celebrated its diversity, but also recognized its history. So in Bristol, we have, for people who aren't from Bristol, we have Perros Bridge. So, we have lots of
things in the city that have been named after people who made their money through the slave trade. And I think Bristol have acknowledged that we play our part in that part of history. But I think the city itself have worked quite hard to recognise that part of the diversity of this city, in our buildings, in our, who lives here now, who has, the people who are part of our communities now wouldn't be here if that history hadn't happened. And so we've got Peros Bridge, which is in recognition of one of the slaves who was brought here. And I think there's lots of recognition over the fact that it has fed into the richness of this city, albeit it's not how we would like history to have happened, but actually there's lots of positives in the culture of this city that plays a part of that. So whether it's the Windrush generation, the boats that came over, the people who worked, significant people who've played a part in this city who came over in that Windrush generation, as well as the slave trade as well. And I think Bristol's been very good at recognizing that, and I think we celebrate the diversity in the city as it is now. So I was born and bred here. It will always have a special place, but I think it's nice to see people who have those positions of power stepping forward and recognizing and trying to, as a city, move that forward and keep that recognition and celebration going, as well as the bits that need to be improved on as well.
Good, excellent. I like that. You know what I mean? I like that. So answer my third question, because we can talk all day about the Black Lives Matter thing, and I don't really want to use that.
It's a huge topic.
Yeah, it's very huge and very vast. But how do you feel the relationship between the community and law enforcement is happening or going on at the moment, being as, there's been a lot of things that have been happening, a lot of wayward law enforcement officers that have come to light? How do you think the community right now, how do you think the relationships are with the law enforcement that are supposed to be keeping us safe at the moment?
It's not a difficult question for me to answer, because I know what my answer is. It's a difficult answer for me to communicate. So I worked for the police here for 20 years, and I am proud of the fact that I worked for the police here for 20 years. And I worked with a lot of very, very good people who and still have very good intentions to do the best for the communities that they serve. So I have that, and I have that strong affiliation with the police service and what the police are there to do, and the people who I've got to know and work alongside with. I will continue to be proud of that. However, the institution and the organisation and some individuals have a lot of improvement to do. And I don't think so I have some challenge around the word racism when it gets used with the service as a whole. I think there is a lot of bias, and I have a different, the use of the word, people get very defensive over the use of the word racism, but I think we all have a bias, and I think the challenge for the police and the community here on both sides is to challenge some of the bias. Now, when I say that, what I mean is there's a lot of history between the police and certain communities. And we're not just talking in the last 10, 20 years, we're talking over a very, very long period of time. There were riots here between the police and some of the Black community in the 70s. We're talking a long time. But I think there's a lot of bias. I think there's a lot of bias that people need to call out on themselves and as part of their organisation. And I mean that on both sides. So I think there's a lot of people who have had bad experiences in dealing with cops. And I think there are cops who've had bad experience or negative experiences with individuals. But what happens is we group those experiences and we form that bias. And I think that's where the challenge needs to be made. One negative experience doesn't contaminate or represent a whole group of people. And I mean that on both sides. So from the police perspective, one or two negative experiences with individuals from a certain community group doesn't represent the whole community. And from a community perspective, one or two negative experiences with a police officer doesn't represent the whole police service. So I think that's part of the challenge at the moment. And I think both sides need to address that and call that out and accept that those biases exist. And I think at the moment, it's very emotional. It's a very emotive subject. But what I am seeing from people who I know on both sides, that there are people who are very much wanting to listen and wanting things to change and wanting things to move forward. I don't know that there are many people on either side who want things to stay as they are. I think people are very keen to move on. I think the police, I'm assuming we were talking UK police here, but the police are there to protect and serve the communities. They are there to represent the communities that they serve. So we need people from all communities to be working with the police, whether that's from the outside in or whether it's as employees, as police officers, to represent the community. It's very hard to police a community that you have no knowledge or understanding of. So we need people from those communities in those organisations, and not just the police, the council, social services, all of these people who serve their communities need to have people in there who represent the communities. And at the same time, people in those organisations need to be listening and understanding those communities as well. And I think at the moment there's a lot of talking and not so much listening. And I don't think anybody wants it to stay the same. I think there's a lot of people who want it to move forward, but it's going to need some listening and some understanding. And I think also some recognition of, we got that wrong. We did not get that right. We got that wrong. We need to learn from it so that we can move on. And I do think that needs to come. We all have an individual responsibility, and organisations also have a collective responsibility to challenge the structure of the organisation or how that organisation is run that is not helping things to move forward.
Yeah, but with all the incidents that have happened involving law enforcement and it being on I hate to say it, but on a race basis, yeah, it's hard for someone like me or anyone from an ethnic background to even think that you want to become part of that institution when you've seen how that institution reacts or how it works on you, so to speak.
Totally get it. So why would you want to work for an organisation that you think doesn't understand you, doesn't get you, why would you want to do that? But at the same time, how does that organisation change if it's not, doesn't have people and doesn't have a representative of that outside community? How else does it change?
I feel that. But at the end of the day, how can it change if, we're living with the old boys and how they do their thing? Because that is something that's been there for a long time, right? I mean, when we're talking about change, if I have to refer back a little bit, to race and stuff, if we're talking about change, what's happening now was happening like 50 years ago, 100 years ago. You know what I mean? The only reason why it's so prominent now is because it's been publicized where people get to actually see it, so the things that you wouldn't ordinarily see, you get to see right now. So therefore, it's like, because of all them things being woven into the foundation of these things, the change itself, even if someone like me was within the society or whatever, it would be very hard, because there has been black police officers who I respect, you know what I mean, and who have gone out there and they do their job and they're really good guys, and Asian police officers, really good guys, and these guys are good and they've been on the force for how long, but it's still, they're still fighting something, and the change is not coming with ease. It's not a speedy thing. It's
No,
always going to be there.
but the culture of any organisation is a very big ship to turn. So how do you work that through? How do you get that culture to shift unless you have the building of these relationships? And so this is where, this topic comes in of you need to build that relationship between the community and the police service. And so what you see is some people from the police actively reaching out that hand to the communities. They want to learn, they want to understand, they want to improve things. And you see some people from the communities actively reaching their hand out to the police. We want to help you. We want you to understand. We want you to be better for our communities. So there are people who are trying to build those relationships. But you're right, it's taking a long time and it's not fast enough for people. So how do you speed up that trust in those, to build those relationships? Now, part of that is by having more people from the community in the organisation, so from the inside out, and then also people in the community on the outside helping in. But it's got to work together. So you've got to have, and this is part of where the challenge is, isn't it? It's you've got to start to have those difficult conversations, start moving things forward and saying, okay, we have to accept and acknowledge where we are now. And that's the first thing that's got to happen. Nothing's going to move forward until there's an acceptance of where we are now. And I think that's probably where some of the issue is there's a bit of denial in what the problems are. So you have to you have to remember, I've been out for 3 years, so I'm now member of the public seeing what I see. But I know, that there's still, because I go now in as a community member, I go to these meetings to try and support from the, I'm not on the inside being able to influence these conversations now. I'm now on the outside. So I now turn up to these meetings as a member of the community to try and help the police to improve their relationships with the community, to help with recruitment and make sure, help people who are trying to, work there and improve how that organisation is. But I'm now doing it from the outside as a community member. But it's about the relationship. It is about the relationship between the police service and the community. It's got to build and it's got to move forward. And I know there's some really strong relationships there, but it's got to grow. It's got to, you can't have 2 or 3 people turn a big ship. You need to have the majority trying to turn the ship. And so, I think Bristol is very lucky. We have a diverse council. We also have a chief constable and a PCC who have a very good relationship with with the people in the council and have been very supportive of trying to improve these relationships. I know that's not the same everywhere, but this is about relationship building. This is about building that trust and having those conversations, working together for to move things forward. And you can't do that if you're not listening, and you can't do that if you're not open to accepting when you've got things wrong, and you can't do that if you're not open to working together. And so whether you're doing that, I'm not saying you have to join up to be able to do that, but I think that's going to help. And when we've got a representative force, that will help. But we also need a community that's saying, okay, we have to acknowledge that this has not been what we want, but how do we help everybody to move this forward so that the next generation don't have to worry about what your generation and your parents' generation have had to worry about. True that.
So it's all about getting the foundation.
I get torn with it because I see what you see. I see what you see, and I get frustrated about how things are handled. But at the same time, I did 20 years with some really good people, and I'm still in contact with people who are really, really trying to make it work and move it forward. So it's it's a tough, it is a tough one, but yeah.
Tough one, because like you said, it's going to take time. You know what I mean? I
Yeah,
just hope to see that kind of thing in my lifetime.
me
You know what I
too.
mean?
Me
For
too.
my children, so they grow up in a better world where, you know, everyone's respected on their character and who they are, like Martin wanted, rather than just being, you know, looked at or judged
Yeah.
by the content of their skin, or, you know,
Yeah.
that kind of. I'd like that change. I'd like to see that in
Yeah.
society.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah. I want that too.
yeah, I
Oh,
want that. So I've got a cheeky question now.
okay.
How I've been looking at your Instagram, and I've been looking
Okay.
at your progress with your running.
With
And
with
how,
running.
yeah, and how it hasn't been very easy. So, what's your relationship with your running? How's that going? How's that working at the moment?
Not, running is a last resort. It really is a last resort. So, so I don't particularly enjoy running. Running is not my first choice of activity. But so the gym's obviously shut down during lockdown. Most of my training these days is more kind of spin classes because it fits in with around work commitments. So when the gym's closed, I tried to work out from home and do walks, but I'm just not one for jumping around in my living room. I can't. I have the utmost respect for people who have been able to be active and work out at home during lockdown. We've got weights here. I've done some weight workouts, did some Pilates, but I can't jump around in my front room. I can't do it. I slack off way too easy. So running was kind of the next option for me. But I have to force myself out. Spin classes, I really look forward to. Like they're in the diary. I'm like, right, okay, just get this done, and then I head out to spin. I enjoy spin. Running, I feel better once I've done it, but when I'm running itself, it's enjoyable. So I try and listen to music, but yeah, I'm not a natural runner. But I need to be out there and I need to be active. Otherwise, I'm quite irritable. So I'm running for my own health and for this kind of health and safety of other people around
So,
me.
so it's a love-hate relationship with the running then. It's a, it's a
It's a
love-hate
need.
relationship.
Yeah, it's a
The body
need.
loves you, but you
It's a
don't really love
need
it too much.
massive. No, I'm just not. I'm really heavy on my feet, so and I know how heavy I am because I can see people moving like further up the road. They can hear me coming. It's just not comfortable, but it's still better than not doing anything at all. So I feel so much better after it. But I would rather go and do a spin class if I could.
Okay,
So
thank
yeah,
you.
it's a love-hate relationship.
Yeah, so for all you lot out there, you know it's a love-hate relationship with running. Okay, so
Yeah.
my final question, because that's been 4 now. My final
Wow.
question
Okay. Final question.
will be, it's just a real simple one, but it's an interesting one.
Okay.
Since the pandemic and all this isolation and being separated from people that we love, people that we care about, how's your relationships with your family, with your friends? Have those relationships been more enhanced since you can be able to appreciate them because we ain't been able to like be around each other?
That's a good question. So I've been with family today, so that's a really well timed question. So it's my stepdad's 70th this week, so happy birthday to him. So I've been with them today, and it's been nice. This is the first time we've actually all been together. So his mum is 95 now.
Wow.
So she was there as well, and then my sister and her husband and her 3 children, and it was just really nice to have everybody in the same room and in the same garden, after all this time. So because myself and my son have been working, we have distanced from them a fair bit up until very recently. In fact, that's the first time I've seen my great gran today since before lockdown, because we've both been working. We've obviously been out and social distancing, but we have been with people. And because they're both in the high risk category, we've obviously, to protect them, kind of stayed away. So it was really nice to kind of see them. I've seen friends for walks and like gone out for food more recently. That's been really nice. Yeah, I think you just really value that connection. And I think different people have managed it in different ways, haven't they? I'm naturally quite an introvert. I like my own space. I like to recharge on my own. So being on my own and distance from people wasn't too much of a challenge for me. In fact, it probably got too comfortable quite quickly, that I've had to almost kind of challenge myself to get back out again. But then I'm with people all day, every day through work. So it hasn't felt isolated, if that makes sense, because I've been in constant contact, regular contact with people. So it's been quite nice to have the sort of friend and family connections again. Zoom's not great for that. Each their own, isn't it? But I think it's served a purpose in keeping people connected, but it's not the same as sitting in the same.
It's never the same. You know, you can have a laugh, but you can never really have that laugh when you're like, it's not the same as when you're in the same vicinity as somebody else, so to speak. Me and my friends, and we're sitting down together and we're laughing, just the facial thing can make me like yell out, you know what I mean, and start going for it, so to speak. So it's so much different.
I don't think you get the connection, the energy connection, in the same way on Zoom. I don't think it's not the same as getting the vibes off people in the same room as them.
It's not really, because I'm just looking at a screen and it's not the same. I'm not really interacting with you. Yes, I can see you, like I can see you right now, but I'm not actually interacting. It's all body language. It's all how you move. It's all feeling the energy, like you said. So yeah, it's one of those for me. I couldn't do the computer. Couldn't do that.
Have you found it have you been able to get back in touch with people again more recently?
Only recently, but I haven't stopped working since this began, because I do security. So when it was really at its peak, I was out there.
You've been one of our key workers, haven't you? So you've been out there working throughout. Yeah,
and I've seen a lot of humanity, right, from people. So for me, I've not stopped, and I've not been able to be with my mom or my dad or something like that, because at the end of the day, I'm working all the time and I'm always around people. So only recently I've been to my mom's house and I've been able to share a laugh and a joke with them and that kind of stuff, and have my whole family together. So it's been better now, but before I did understand how you can really appreciate the relationships that you have with people when you're not in the same room as them, or you're not being able to be around the same energy as them or in the same place. You really learn to appreciate it. You know.
So you mentioned just then that you've seen a lot of humanity. So can I spin a question back to you and ask whether or not your relationship with humanity, have you, like, how you've seen the world, has that changed, and which did it change for the better, or did it change, like, are you more positive about humanity, or is that
not a very good question? This is not a very good question, though. Not a very good question. Honestly, like,
see what you've seen.
All right, and for me, and this is just my opinion. Okay, I do love the community-based thing. You know, people pulling it out for each other, pulling together. You know what I'm saying? But on the flip side of it, I've seen a lot of selfish intent as well. Right, people that are basically just looking out for them and not the wider sense of it. Like, what you see when you're out there, well, when I was out there in the beginning, was awful. It was
Yeah.
completely awful, right? People fighting each other, people like not having no respect for each other. You know, I think as we got deeper into it, people started realizing that having a community or not being able to do certain things, or the older people within our communities not being able to do certain things, you know what I mean? We had to
Yeah.
start helping each other. We had to start helping each other. And about 60% of us, 70% of us started doing all that. But there was that little percentage that was still just thinking about me, myself, and I,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
right? Then I have people who complain to me about other people not caring about their, how can I put it? How can I put this? About them being susceptible to the coronavirus in these pandemic times, you know what I mean? And then you have to try and speak to them as well and empathize with them. But at the
Yeah.
same time, you know that people ain't doing certain things out of just doing it out of being selfish or being horrible. It's just that they're trying to mind their own as well
Yeah.
and protect themselves. So
Yeah.
it's just, it's really up and down. I mean,
Yeah.
humanity itself has changed a lot, a lot. I feel like we've gone back a bit to the days when I was growing up, where it was all community based.
Yeah.
Because now I know all my neighbors now.
Yeah.
I lived here for ages, and I hadn't spoken to a lot of them, and all of a
Yeah.
sudden I know all of them now. I know all
Okay.
of them. So
Good for
it's one of
you.
those things where
Yeah.
it was good for community in that
Yeah.
respect. But on a deeper thing, it was like a lot of people took advantage of it as well,
Yeah.
you know. And
So
then on top of that,
the self-preservation is really strong, isn't it? That self-protection, self-preservation, and how that plays out for people and how that can have that negative impact on other people is really strong. I think I've seen lots of fear, and
oh
people manage that
yeah,
in different
yeah, it's
ways.
awful. It's awful. It's like the older people, it's very present. You can see it
Yeah.
in their eyes, you can see it in their actions, you can see
Yeah.
everything. You know, there's some people out there that just don't care. Like, we had a guy come in and he was like saying that he was presenting symptoms of coronavirus to one of the workers there just to scare her. Stuff like that. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? To me, it gave me a broader view of what's really going on out here, people and what people are doing. No, the fear factor is one of the main things that controls everyone, and the media don't help,
No.
right? The media don't help. The media feed into it themselves. They
Yeah.
start telling you things, and then you got Facebook and you got Instagram and you got everything telling you certain bits and that. And I've seen how people get all confused, like, but I'm scared to send my kids to school, and I'm scared to go out the door. And I don't know what to do. It just reminds me of like when we had the terrorist attacks and stuff, and everyone was talking about this war on terror.
Yeah.
Right? And terror is an emotion. It's not an actual person, but everyone like got sucked into that. And
Yeah.
I think it's happening again with the coronavirus, because
Yeah.
I've done a lot of research, and I'm one of those guys that think, okay, coronavirus, blah blah blah, but it isn't as dangerous as flu. And when we had the swine flu going around,
Yeah.
no one had to wear a mask.
No.
no, no one was running around isolating, and a lot more people died of that than they're dying of the COVID. You know what I mean? If you check it out. So, but when I think about certain things, I just feel like it's the way the media and everybody else amps it up, just
Yeah.
amping it up. What we should be doing is being a lot more calmer about it. That's what I feel. Be a lot more calm, and then we'll be able to think a lot more logically about what's going on and what's happening. But because everyone's on that fear factor of like, oh, we got to do this, got to do that, you got to wear a mask. I mean, the mask thing, I started in the beginning. If this was like a main thing that we should have had, then why didn't I have a mask in the beginning? Like, I felt like this is really crazy. Why didn't I have a mask in the beginning? Like, I was like on ground zero. I'm a war dude. I'm out there with the rest of the key workers. We're standing there on
Yeah,
the front
if
line.
you're on the front line, then yeah, that PPE equipment was so important, wasn't it?
There was none. There was none. I guarantee you, there was none.
But if you take it back, that what you're just saying there about the fear factor and that self-protection. So even if you just go back through to the answers to the questions that I've given you this evening, the fear factor runs through so many of those.
It does all the time.
And that fear is like the strongest emotion in terms of how we protect ourselves. And like you said, if we just kind of took, you know, when we're not in that heat of the moment, we take that step back and go, what is going on here? And we separate the facts and we separate the feelings, and we start to have those conversations with, we dial down the emotion and we dial up the forward thinking and cohesion, collaboration. Things could be so different.
That would be a world. That would definitely be a world. But I feel like, I just don't see it happening, because we're a generation of, like, there's good and bad in everyone, and there's good and bad in everything. So we've always got to have that balance. I feel like there's always going to be that balance that has to happen. I just hope the balance tips a bit more with the good and stuff with the bad. That's my goal in life. That's what I want to do. That's what I want to put into this world. A little bit more of the good, and then we can just tilt it a little bit, you know what I mean? Because I know that it's always going to be like that, in a sense of.
Ultimately, if we all want, when as a collective we all want the same things to happen, we're more prepared to negotiate how we show up to that for the outcome. Yeah.
But we need a lot more like-minded people making a lot more moves, and I think that's what it's going to take for us to, like, I don't know, rise together rather than rise apart. Because that's what we need. Everything around me seems to add up to division. You know what I mean? Everything seems to be a divide. If it was the Black Lives Matter, it was black and white. If it was, a pandemic, it was those who felt the fear the most from those who thought this is another trick. You know what I mean? So it's always a division. But no one ever sees that the division is used as a form of control.
Absolutely. And actually, if we sit down and listen, we will see that actually most people are not here for division. Most people want people all working together because they know that the benefits massively outweigh people and most people aren't trying to pull off in different directions.
I mean,
people want what they feel is best for themselves, but we don't always recognize that actually if we all just moved in the same direction, that is what would happen. But yeah, that's why it needs to be that movement and momentum rather than that divisiveness. But it's just that if we can put the feelings of fear and the worry about what may or may not happen to one side and start talking about what we do want, and we can start to listen, then I do think that those relationships will build. Because ultimately, if you strip away what humans are about, if you just strip it back down to that relationship of humans, regardless of the country we were born in or the culture we've been raised in or the parents that we have or any of those things, ultimately the psyche of the human is exactly the same across the board.
But you're saying the right things. You're saying the right things, though. There is no black and white. There is no black and white. There's only diversity. There's only beings. There is no black and white. We are all beings on this one planet. We all coexist and live together. There is no black and white. There is no separation. There's only the illusion of separation.
There's diversity and difference in who we are as individuals. And within that, there's some commonality of people who are similar to us in different ways, whether it's in our belief system, in our behaviors, in our culture, in what we celebrate and what we find is important. But ultimately, as humans, we all have the same psychology. We all have exactly the same needs. And we all collectively have that need to self-protect, survive. And then after that, there is diversity and there is difference. but they're all up surface level.
Yeah, but you see, I'm stronger with you as an ally than I am with you as an enemy.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Right. So that's how you got to think about things. Like there is no division, only the division that we create.
Yeah,
you know,
absolutely.
That can be created through insecurity, through fear, through this, through that. So it's only what we create and manifest that comes out. Yeah.
But even when you look at the division, ultimately, it's all people trying to protect the same thing. They're just trying to protect it in different ways.
Basically, yeah. Trying to do the same thing, but just being awkward about it.
Yeah. Whereas we could all do the same thing together, and it would be a whole lot easier. But you're right.
But
we're stronger working together.
That's what usual. It's always,
but
anything you can do, I can do better.
But it's the fear of scarcity, isn't it? Because if you have something, then it doesn't. If you have something, does that mean I have to give it up, or can we both have the same thing? So it's the scarcity. It's the scarcity mindset. Whether you're talking about toilet roll or power, it's a scarcity mindset. If you have the toilet roll, I don't have the toilet roll. If you have the power, I can't have the power. Whereas actually, we can all have toilet roll and we can share the power.
Share everything.
That's a terrible analogy, but it's a scarcity mindset.
It's a very powerful one, being as people were fighting over toilet paper. You know what I mean? So it's a very powerful one.
But people struggle with equality because they think they have to lose something for other people to be equal.
Yeah, basically.
So the fear is not that you as a whole, you people outside of me. It's not the fear that other people will be equal. It's the fear that I have to lose something for other people to be equal.
I think that's the fear of a lot of people.
Fear, scarcity mindset.
Yeah. I think
that's why toilet roll came into my mind. But it's the fear of scarcity. It's like if for other people to be equal, I need to give something up. So then I'm not equal to you because I've given something over to you. So it's a scarcity mindset. Whereas ultimately there is enough for everyone. If there was that cohesion, that collaboration, there is enough for everybody. For other people to be equal, we don't have to be less or give up.
If I have an idea and then my idea helps me move forward in a certain way and I share that idea with somebody else, that doesn't take away from me, that gives to me, because now we can both share this experience. We can both have that idea. We can both talk on that level. That's how I've always been with my mindset. Because it's not about trying to be above people. We're all the same. I can learn from someone who I know nothing about or who I feel like doesn't know as much as I do. You know what I mean? But I can learn from everyone. Yeah.
And that's not taking away from other people by you doing that. It gives to you, but they're not any less. They haven't had to give something. To give to someone doesn't mean that you have to take away from
yourself. Yeah,
exactly.
A plus. It's a plus. It's not a minus.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? When you give someone something, it's a plus because you gain from that as well. You gain from giving them something. That's what it's all about.
Exactly. What a great note to end on. What a great note to end on. Spot on.
Perfect.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. I hope that it was insightful. I hope that you enjoyed it and I gave you some good questions.
You did.
I kind of went off the topic, but tried to stay on it at the same time. It still came in with the relationships. You know what I'm saying?
We got back to it. No, it's all good. It's always a pleasure to have a conversation with you. I always take something away, hopefully without taking from you in the process. I always learn something.
I've gained as well. I've gained an insight myself, so I'm good.
Perfect. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, Zoe.
Yours is the last one on this topic as well, so I feel like we've ended up here.
Yeah, I think we took everyone else's amazing stuff and then
by talking about the running, you've introduced the next topic quite nicely as well. So that was a nice smooth handover because next month the theme is around physical activity. So nicely done. unknowingly, but nicely done.
Yeah, I'll be there at the end of the month again, yeah, to finish it over. You know, at the end of the month.
We'll just keep wheeling you in at the end of each month. Thank you so much for coming in. So thank you to those of you who've tuned in. If you are watching back, let us know. If you've got questions for either myself or Jamel, actually, just type them into the comments and we will come back to you. This will go up on YouTube, Instagram TV. It will stay here on Facebook as well. But if you are watching back at any time, do feel free to put anything into the comments or questions. I'll be more than happy to answer them. But thank you so much, Jamel. Thank you so much for your time. And I will see you very soon. Okay, take care.
Bye.